Good morning. I'm not streaming this on YouTube. I'm streaming it on TikTok today. Having some technical difficulties. It's this switch over to YouTube is proving to be very complicated. So I'll see if I can get the live maybe to go over to YouTube and work with it that way if that's how we got to get started. So I have already had quite a morning. It is 9:30 a.m. here in Vermont, and I'm staring out my window. There's a really heavy gray cloud overhead, but blue sky around it. We've already had snow. It keeps freezing and melting, and it's a mess, but it's still a winter wonderland. And it's 9:30, and I've already had a complete day. I have been awake since, I think I got up a little later today. I woke up about just before 5 a.m., so like 4:50 a.m. And I woke up to yet another text message. Okay, there's a few things I want to cover. I'm going to cover my day yesterday and why that's relevant, because I want to instill hope in everybody, because we're lacking hope. And I got a few things. So, okay, let me write this down. We got that, and then we also have okay, all right. Okay, so I'm going to start off by talking about what it is that this podcast is about, because I really just jumped in with both feet, because I started it in 2022 in Portland, Oregon. And since then, I have been all over. Since Portland and starting this podcast, I moved to Michigan. Then I moved to New Mexico. From New Mexico, I moved back to Michigan. From Michigan, I moved to Alaska. And from Alaska, I moved to Vermont. This is all within the last 2 years. It's been wild. And my kid was 7 when I left Portland. He's 9 now. So yeah, it's been 2 years, which is crazy. Oh, I dropped my pen. Okay, such a human moment. So, then I was going over the organs. If you're listening to this on the TikTok live, or if you're listening to this on YouTube, or if you're listening to the podcast on the preview portion, please go to either my YouTube and subscribe there. I would suggest subscribing for free to my Patreon, which is Getting Poked by Laura. You can look me up, I think, under Laura Drago. But Getting Poked by Laura on Patreon is where you can subscribe to this podcast for free. It would really help me a lot. I'm trying to grow my audience, because this podcast is really about having an audience. This podcast right now is me ranting and talking every day and sort of showing and explaining to the audience who I am and what it is that I do and how I work. Which I think to most people is going to be a unique thing, a unique approach, unique information. I took the path less traveled in life, and I continue to. So please take a minute to subscribe to my YouTube, which is Nice Needles, and my Patreon, which is Getting Poked by Laura, the name of this podcast. And I do podcast daily, with occasional exceptions. I'm trying to bridge that gap. Yesterday was a day that I did not podcast, and I'm going to explain that here in a second. But when I thought back, after my already very long day at 9:30 in the morning on, what is it, a Friday? Is it Friday? Oh my gosh. I was like, what is this podcast about? Have I really stated that? Because I think I've just been exploring it as I've dived in. And initially it was sort of introduce the audience to East Asian medicine, to Chinese medicine, to some of the more vague general concepts that I think can be more helpful to the layman and to the average person. And so figuring out what am I doing here has really been a very long journey, with a long physical journey in between when I had a break. And so this is what I wrote this morning, my manifesto for this podcast. At the moment, I can change, I can add, I can delete. To discuss health, any and all aspects as it relates to us on a personal and communal level, to raise awareness to our own internal innate gifts and powers to change, grow, and heal, and to make hard things like feelings easier. I think a lot of people struggle with feelings. I want to first point out, I would say that men and older boys, and maybe even younger boys, definitely have a harder time with feelings, because they are very much in ways that we don't even recognize. The rest of us around these people, around these male energies. We don't recognize how much we suppress male voices and male feelings, and then they cage themselves eventually, and they suppress themselves. But also women. I think women on the opposite side of that coin are painted to be crazy and, right, too much emotion, but we expect it of them, right? And so then women internalize and continue with this cage of, like, I'm too much, my feelings are too much, I'm crazy, I'm hormonal, like all that crap. And I think feelings become this sort of focal point in our society, our specific American society, that we really struggle with. We think of ourselves as so sturdy and hardy and hardworking and all this stuff, but then we can't deal with our freaking emotions. I heard, oh my gosh, there's a friend of mine who's in Costa Rica right now, and she just got acupuncture from this 80-year-old acupuncturist from London who's living in Costa Rica for half the year. And the woman talked about, and I've heard other Chinese practitioners talk about this, and it's very interesting to me because I think there's truth in it, and I think also there's, it's also not true. So take this with a grain of salt. But this acupuncturist, her style is very aggressive. Mine is the opposite, and I would agree with her on in some aspects, why we have different styles. Some of it's just personal and what you're attracted to, but there are styles of acupuncture. And I'm not going to name them because I only know what I know, and I don't want to taint anything. But some styles or some practitioners feel that if you don't feel the acupuncture, if it doesn't hurt, that it's not working. I take the very opposite approach, which is why the name, Nice Needles. And I understand the approach. It's also a cultural difference. And so anyway, getting back to feelings, right? And this culture and how we don't really deal with them and don't know how to deal with them. And it causes us so much angst and pain, not just emotionally, but also physically, because eventually pain somatizes into our bodies, into our tissues, into our organs. That's what our bodies do. They somatize, they take it, they hold it. Our bodies are a gift. They're taking care of us. They're holding things we don't know how to process or haven't yet processed. So the style she has is very much like this sort of painful style where you're really going for what they call Da Chi. Da Chi is big chi. Da Chi is like, I'm going for it. I'm going to grab this energy. I'm not just going to put a fish hook in the water. I'm going to take a stick of dynamite and we're going to blow this bitch up. So my friend got needled like in her toes, like deep into the bone, which might sound horrible, but if you're really sick and you can't find answers, having some acupuncture to the bone is really, you can even listen, I'm about no pain, or about as little discomfort as possible. Sometimes you have to feel discomfort, and I can't even help that. It's just what the body needs to do to push through something, or to move through something, or to fill something up. There can be discomfort involved in that, but I'm not about it. I don't think that you have to feel that in order for things to move and change. I know that that's the truth. I've been practicing this medicine since 2010 and in private practice since 2012. So I know that that's true. But her philosophy was that it was based in men, right? Because men were like the leaders of the medicine, because it's still patriarchal ideals. And the idea was that Chinese men are softer on the outside, meaning body-wise. They're softer on the outside, but they're tougher on the inside. So they can take the pain of things better, like acupuncture, where westernized men are tougher on the outside, more muscles, like more, masculinity, kind of, that American whatever. But on the inside, they're softer. They can't take as much pain, which I think is very interesting. I think it's a very East Asian medicine, Chinese sort of philosophical idea about the different layers of people and the philosophical sort of energetics behind it. So the idea is that the American acupuncture is therefore more gentle, but that's not really true, because I've met all kinds of practitioners in this medicine who practice all kinds of things, and you can go to 20 different people and have 20 different styles and 20 different approaches, and they're all valid. It's really about what you resonate with. So anyway, feelings. I feel like in Western society, we really don't know how to deal with feelings. We don't know how to deal with difficult things, not just with others, but with ourselves. We don't know how to hold space with one another. We don't know how to commune together. We don't know how to deal with death. We don't know how to heal together in tragic things. and we become more and more separate. So that is really a core value of my podcast, of my work in general, any writing that I'm going to continue to do as I move forward. As a solo practitioner, one patient at a time, that is definitely, I want to make more difficult things not so difficult. So anyway, that is that. So let me tell you about my day, which is already, let's see, it's 9:40, 8, 7, 6, 5. So I've already been awake for 5 hours. I've cleaned my house. I've done the dishes. I've cooked food. I've had coffee, all the things. Folded the laundry. Did I already say that? But yesterday I was laid out. And this is the second time in 10 or 11 days that I have been laid out. The first time was February 13th of this month. I mean, laid out. I mean, I felt like I got punched in the face. I felt like there were sandbags on my body. My body was heavy. I couldn't move. I couldn't stop crying. Horrible, horrible, and like out of the blue. And while I've been through a lot in the last 2 years, as previously just discussed, none of it, my computer just shut off. See, this is the technical side. I gotta figure out how that, yeah, okay. That's all right. Wow, why is that recording over something? That's really weird. What's happening there? Oh, maybe I'm recording over an old one that didn't get deleted. Oh, well. Okay, as long as it's recording, that's fine. So anyway, that was February 13th, and it happened to be an anniversary where I broke my ankle the previous year, that day, February 13th, and I've told this story already, but I'll just review quick. So I thought maybe I was experiencing some of the trauma of what had happened a year ago because it was the day that I was leaving someone's home, and I broke my ankle, and then I had to travel. I had to take a train, I had to fly, I had to drive, and then I had to walk on a broken ankle for over a month in the Alaskan forest while hauling my groceries by sled, living without plumbing with my kid in the middle of Alaska. So that was last year. February 13th was my journey destination. I broke my ankle, and so I kind of remembered that, and then I had this heaviness come on me, and I thought, wow, like this is a pretty big response to that grief. I guess I have trauma to process. No, my cousin that day, who I don't know well, I was adopted out of the family, but I do know him a little bit. He's one of 3 children, one of 2 boys, and the other boy had died several years ago in his 30s of alcoholism. And it turned out that day, my other cousin, this is the house that I left a year ago, that she found him, the other brother, unconscious, and gave him CPR, and he ended up on life support, and that was February 13th, I believe. And he passed away the day that I started to feel things shift and change. So I didn't know it, but the heaviness that I was going through was definitely the emotions of that family. I tend to receive messages through my body. I'm just not connected to them anymore, and so I didn't know until a couple of days later. So then yesterday I went down again, and it was hard. It was actually harder than the last time, and I woke up this morning to a message from my sister and my brother who said they found my aunt dead yesterday. So within less than 2 weeks, and it's the same family, same side of my family that I was adopted out of, and I happen to know that aunt. I don't know many people in that family. I'm going to post a picture of how big my family is. To my knowledge, I was the only person of that generation adopted out of that family. It's a huge family. I have a picture of myself when I was 3 on my biological dad's shoulders. I actually have a memory of that day, a really vivid one. I used to dream about it. It's a massive family. I was named after the matriarch of the family, of this huge family. Laura Cheeseman was her name, and I was named after her, and then I was adopted. I was given away. So I had this huge family, right? And I'm adopted out of it. So getting to know that side of the family, understanding that side of myself, it's taken a while. That's a story for another day. But this aunt on that side, she passed away yesterday. This morning they found her. And yesterday I had this huge collapse again that I don't have things like that happen to me very often. Even when I'm going through really, really difficult things, I tend to be very sturdy. And I was knocked out. I didn't drink water until 3 p.m. in the afternoon. I didn't eat. I managed to get up twice to cook for my son, and then he made his last meal for himself because Luckily, he's awesome, and we've been learning to cook together. So never been so happy to pick up a little food mess in the morning than to know that he made his own food last night. So yeah, I woke up today, sandbags were gone, heaviness was gone, but woke up to find out that she had passed, which was pretty nuts. And I definitely have, she happened to be the person who talked to me about the psychic connections within our family, because I told her about experiences that I had, and she was like, oh yeah, that's us. And then she told me about her and my grandma and all these people in the family. So I guess for me, the reflection that I had wanted to share this morning was, number one, hey, we're alive. Honestly, yesterday, was that where I wanted to be? No, I didn't, but I was. And I am still today, and I'm grateful for it. And it's a good reminder that even when I'm in my worst, like just tomorrow. And I said that to myself. There's tomorrow. I will probably be better tomorrow. So we're still alive. We're still here, which means we still have opportunities. And then after that, I got a TikTok from a friend. I don't really look at TikTok much anymore. I'm not really on TikTok much anymore. I'm trying to reincorporate it to the best that I can so that I can share what I'm doing with that audience, try to encourage people to come over to my YouTube, trying to encourage people to subscribe to my Patreon, which you can do through the link in my bio if you're on my TikTok right now or on YouTube or anywhere else. I have a link to my Patreon there, and you can subscribe for free. And I definitely want new listeners because I want people to ask questions. I want people to engage in the conversation so that I can help with that. That's what I'm offering. I'm offering my expertise. I'm offering my knowledge, my training, my wisdom, my different perspective, especially right now in this moment in time. So this woman on this TikTok that I got sent, she was talking about how many things are going on right now, right? Whoever you are, for the most part, if you're an average citizen, someone who works or who doesn't work, who's a stay-at-home parent or whatever it might be, you're feeling the effects of what's going on, and pretty much everybody predicts we're going to be feeling it a lot more in really basic ways, right? Basic life ways that none of us within our lifetimes have probably experienced. I have a grandmother-in-law who's 100. She's experienced some of what I think we're about to go through, but it's also going to be different. It's a different time, right? So she was talking about what's the best way, and she had some historical references to approach this problem. And she was talking about the oath that our leaders take to the Constitution. And that when people show that they are not willing to follow the Constitution, the rules of engagement, what this country is founded on, that, we haven't all agreed. I think we all need to agree again. Is this what we want? I think that's the moment we're in. Do we actually want democracy? Is that really what we want? Are we going to hold true to the ideals of the Constitution? And are we going to demand that our leaders follow the oath that they took? And our leaders have taken an oath. And we straight up, this is not hyperbole, have traitors because they are violating our Constitution. And so we need not focus on this issue and this issue and this issue as a collective. We need to understand that the issue is that we have leaders who are violating the Constitution, the due process that we must go through, and we must follow the rules of engagement that we have agreed upon as a society, or maybe that we need to re-agree upon. And so if we have leaders who are not agreeing and who are not following the oath that they took, that is the issue. That is the only issue that we must focus on. We must focus on removing them from office, demanding that they leave, and that's it. And that way we can focus on the one important thing. We need people who, at the very least, take the oath, commit to the oath, and follow the oath to protect and defend the Constitution, to follow the Constitution. Right now you have a leader in office who, and I will get off politics here in a second, but this gave me hope, right? Because what's happening right now is divide and conquer more and more and more. It's more and more divide and conquer. This issue, that issue, like scattered, right? This lawsuit, that lawsuit, great. But the people as a whole are the ones who hold the power, period. That's obvious. It's a numbers obvious thing, okay? So if enough people say, you know what? We need to focus on the fact that we have people in office who've taken an oath and they're not following that oath. They're violating it. It's that simple. It's that simple. And we have to come together on that and demand that they GTF out. Okay? So I liked that because it takes all of this complexity, all this stuff that's scattering our energy, and it's the truth. I'll post it. I'll put it on my story, and I'll also post it to my Blue Sky, and I'll try to remember to put the same link on my YouTube if I can figure out a way to do it. But you need to listen to what this woman said. She points to a Substack account, the name I don't have right now. If somebody knows it in the chat, feel free to put it in. But that gave me hope, because it's like, yeah, that's what we have to do, consolidate our mission. And our mission is to agree that we like the Constitution, that we want the Constitution to stick, that we want our leaders to follow it, and that we're not here to see that go. And demand that they do that. But he's not going to do that. He hasn't done that. He's violated it over and over. You know, we knew this before he got in, but now here he is doing it again. And they hold all the power, that party. So there's no reason to break the Constitution unless the goal is to no longer have that Constitution. And I would argue that that is the goal. I wouldn't argue it. I think it's very plain and obvious because they're not following it, right? They're not following it. So we can sort of let these other issues go until we can deal with that one. I think that she said it a lot better than I did, but I liked that message a lot. It did give me hope. So yeah, I think I'll just end, because I'm already 20 minutes in, by saying that I want to continue to talk about health. I want to continue to talk about it in every aspect as it relates to our bodies. Sure. Yep. But the body stuff, the body pain, the body issues, I promise you, I always have practical right now things I can talk about, sort of long-term solutions in terms of interventions, whether it be diet, exercise, lifestyle, acupuncture, herbs, even medications. I'm not opposed to medications as long as we have an exit strategy. Pharmaceuticals require an exit strategy. Sometimes we need more severe interventions because we've allowed the disease in our body to go too far. Very common in this society. We don't look at things until it's an emergency. But more deeply, where your body pain and discomfort and issues will probably take me for the most part is to a discussion about our spiritual, emotional, mental health. Because those are truly what's underneath our physical bodies. Our physical bodies are receptacles, they're holders. It's a receiver to feel things, literally from the brain. The brain and the heart are connected. They're not the same thing, but they're connected directly. And what you feel somatizes by way of hormones and chemicals that then do what? They transmit through the nervous system into the tissues, muscles, tendons, bones, blood, organs. I was saying this to a friend this morning who was talking about changes in life and hormones and things, and I said, yes, my belief after studying Western medicine and Eastern medicine together, because you have to do both in the way that I was trained, is that hormones and these things that we can sort of see and measure on blood tests and on scans, right, that are very macro, that those are the mechanisms of the spirit. Those are the mechanisms of the emotions. Those are the mechanisms of the mind and the heart to allow our bodies to feel and experience what we're going through. Another way to say that, to make it more clear for you, I was talking to another friend last week and saying that when we talk about seeing ourselves, witnessing ourselves, watching ourselves, there's two people in that. There's two entities in that. And I think people don't stop to take time to understand that when you witness yourself, so you are one thing. There's the you, the I. But you are witnessing. Who are you witnessing? The self. So the self is not you. The self, I would say, I would argue, I'm sure other people have even better arguments, is you, that energy, that spirit that is you, that integrates with the body and the mind. So there's an energy that is not your body or your mind, but that is intertwined. You could say that's being housed. I think it's more than being housed. I think they're intertwined. I think that's why the body, paying attention to the body, learning the body is so important. Because the more tuned in we become to the body, the more tuned in we become to our truth. So what I'm saying is that the chemicals, the hormones, the cascades of chemical and neurological physiology that occur in the body, from the moment that you have a feeling to a thought, and then the thought becomes a wave that goes down the nervous system into the body. The feelings that we feel in our body from that peripheral nervous system that comes off the brain, off the spinal cord, and into our organs, and into our muscles, and into our bones and our blood, those messages are the truth of what we are really feeling. And so knowing what we literally feel, not what we think, and observing the self, rather than letting the self run us. I'm watching snowmobilers go across not my land, but the land that I live on. I love it. I love Vermont. Anyway, so I hope that's helpful. So I want to come back and talk more about you, your issues, your struggles, what you're going through. Sign up for free on my Patreon, please. I have 44 members. My first goal is 1,000 members, so I'm pretty far off. I'm not even to 10% yet. I would really, I'm like at 0.5%, not even, 0.4. So I would really love to get some new subscribers there, please, because your questions, your comments, your feedback, what you do for a living, I'm looking to interview people. I'm looking to answer questions. I'm looking to open new discussions. We need healthy, positive talk like this right now. We have so much stress around us. And if there's one thing I understand even more acutely than the rest of my life, which has been pretty stressful for the most part. I had some good years. I had a couple good decades. But 3 of the decades were pretty hard. 2 of them were pretty good. This is very stressful right now. And the last 5 years for me have been extra. So as I sit on this mountaintop in Vermont, and I have a couple months of rest under my belt, I'm trying to use that energy to help in the ways that I know how, and this is how I know how. So we're at 27 plus minutes now. I'm going to go ahead and stop the recording. Please go to my Patreon. Link is in my bio on TikTok. On YouTube, I'm Nice Needles. I'm Nice Needles on Blue Sky. And you can also find me by Getting Poked by Laura, the name of my podcast. All right, thanks for tuning in. I hope you have a great day. I don't know what I said, but we did our best today. Take care.